In surprising news on Saturday, the New York Knicks agreed to trade the 10-time All-Star CarMelo Anthony to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange receiving Enes Kanter, Doug McDermott, and a 2018 second-round pick. Meanwhile, Melo agreed to waive his no-trade clause and his $8.1 million trade kicker to accommodate the deal, expected to be finalized on Monday. And with less than 30 days until the NBA's opening night, we welcome in our Chris Weber, TNT analyst, among many other things. And Chris, OKC's matchup against the Knicks during TNT's opening week just became a bit more exciting, huh?
It is. It's going to be really exciting, especially when you look at the first game of the season with Kyrie going back to play against his team in Cleveland, and now it's going to be some really exciting games. That's what you got to love about the NBA, is the fact that our off seasons sometimes move with the pace of our mid-season stride. So it's very exciting right now.
And Chris, Melo had agreed to waive his no-trade clause for Houston. Later, he added Cleveland and OKC. Why, though, was the Thunder the right fit here?
Well, I'm really not sure. I think first and foremost is his relationship with other players. Billy Donovan is not a veteran coach, and so it's not a situation where you would leave your team to go play for that coach, and that's nothing bad speaking about Donovan. It's just the truth. He's only been in the league 2, maybe 3 years, and so he has a learning curve. I think it's the fact that you trust each other. And when I see moves like this, woke up this morning, Kevin Control had a bunch of stats for me, and it's just incredible. I think when you look at CarMelo and the fact that he shoots 41%, 42% from the three-point line on catch and shoot. And I've always said he's one of the best catch and shoot players in the game, but he's never really played with great point guards to give him the ball. And now I think that we'll be able to see Westbrook, who still will be dominant, who still should take the last shots of the game or have the ball in his hands in last possessions of the game, now be able to drive, kick it to the corner to some great knockdown shooters and guys that he can trust. So I just think it's just going to be exciting, and that's why I think he waived that trade clause to play with talent. It's much easier as a really great player on your team to play with other players that garner the same respect defensively and the same respect from coaches, and now Melo has that in 2 younger players. So I could definitely see why OKC seemed to be greener pastures for him.
As we look at the bigger picture, Chris, how does this affect the landscape of the league, besides the obvious one less All-Star in the East?
Yeah, well, he's the 4th All-Star, the Eastern All-Star to leave and head west. And I can tell you personally, it's much more fun to play ball in the West because of the style of play, and the styles of play are drastically different. But very honestly, I don't see a championship. I see a learning curve. This probably isn't the last moves that they have to make. Anytime you have a player like Melo score 10,000 points, 1 or 2 players or 3 players to score for 10,000 points for 2 teams, it's just incredible, the potential that they have. The same with Westbrook, former MVP, the same with George. But, I still think that with the loss of Kanter, who was a post scorer, defensively, how teams are going to try to run him, maybe attack Melo on defense. I still think that you have to look at teams that have been together much longer as teams that maybe have an upper hand, such as San Antonio, such as Golden State, and maybe even for some the Clippers. But it should be interesting this year.
And we've talked about these super teams having to sacrifice statistically. You mentioned that reigning MVP on the roster, Russell Westbrook, having averaged a triple-double. How now do you best distribute this ball among a roster of all-stars?
I'm one of the guys that think that you can do it. I think that if anything, his assists will go up this year. If he took the same number of shots and made the same number of passes as he did last year, and 4 more guys just make shots, they have a better record already. So one thing you always want to have is a great point guard. I've been blessed to play with a couple of them. And so I think he'll facilitate, get the guys in their spots. He'll learn them, understand it. And this is the best thing about it, is that now, what's the defense going to do? It's really, you take what the defense gives you. So when he comes off a pick and roll of Melo, that's a hell of a decision-making exercise real quick of who to go to. So he'll make the correct pass. Other players will make the correct pass because there's only 5 defensive players on the floor, but usually takes 2 to stop their main 3. So it's going to be definitely interesting. And Donovan has his hands full. He has to get creative, and he's going to have to earn that coaching check right now to put some nice offenses in there to see what these players can do.
And on the other end of that trade deal, the Knicks, how will Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott fit in? And what needs to happen now to propel this team forward?
Well, as a player, when you get traded, sometimes it's a moment of clarity, whether it is because someone believes in you that much and they want you on their team and you have to raise your game, or it's a moment of purgatory, like, what do I do? I'm going to a place with not that great of a team. I'm going to a different situation. And for Cantor, he's one of the big fellas that I've loved this game, a traditional back-to-the-basket player, can score, can get to the bucket, get to the foul line, really great on offense. Defense, he struggles. And so now is he going to make that commitment for Hornacek and for that team there to be on the defensive sideline? That's where he is. McDermott has a lot to prove. You know, he's been known as a shooter, but he has a lot to prove. Shooting in this league is just not enough. You got to have all the things I'm sure he has, but that's heart, grit, grind, toughness on the defensive end, a willingness to play on both ends of the floor. And right now he's going to have that opportunity every night in there at a place where the fans let you know how they feel. And the fans in New York are very knowledgeable, so they hold you to high standards there. So I think for New York, the organization, Scott Perry did as best of a job he could in a situation like this. They have some really good young talent, and you know, hopefully that 2018 or that second-round draft pick will come in good form. But right now, I feel like Cantor and the big unicorn there are really gonna, you know, have to develop some chemistry and kill it inside.
And these two teams will go head-to-head during our opening week on TNT. And talking to you, Chris Webber, gets me a little bit more excited for it. Thanks for taking the time.
Always talking to you gets me excited. Can't wait for basketball season.
All right, Chris.